So, are we ready to go, Jennifer?
Mhm. Yeah.
I am trying out tilting this because I heard that there are opportunities for administrators sometimes to practice what we're asking our faculty colleagues to practice. And since I like to go into the weeds with my faculty colleagues sometimes, here's my attempt at tilting the purpose of today's session. I didn't quite get into what are the other aspects?
Purpose, task, and
Tasks
criteria.
and criteria. I didn't quite get through all of those since I was shared tilting basics about half an hour ago. This is my attempt. So today's purpose or purposes is that I am hoping that we will gain some knowledge on the new structure of program health. Yes, we made some tweaks, and how we can begin data entry in this process. That's sort of an and, so maybe it counts as two purposes in the first one. The second purpose is that we are going to practice some skills in Watermark and with SAS dashboards. I want to both show you the questions that I'm asking you and then show you how to answer those questions. And since we are recording this, others will get that knowledge as well, we hope, or skills, I should say, knowledge, skills, and then use of these skills. As you heard me speak over and over again last year, this is about empowering program heads to tell a story of their program overall, to advocate for resources, to focus on how students are doing and how faculty are doing, right? This is meant to be a comprehensive story that we're telling about programs. And then the application of all of this, I think it really provides us with the opportunity to discuss the value and what the purpose of higher education is in general. That's zooming way out for the students of higher education administration in the room. Because as we all know, I think we can use arrows in our quiver, to use that metaphor, as a way to say, this is why college matters. This is why it's important. Because we're teaching these things, because we're monitoring these things, because we're measuring these things. So that's my tilt attempt. I'm not going further into the weeds with it because I might embarrass myself. Did I tilt sufficiently?
I feel tilted.
A little bit tilted. Let's be transparent. Then let me also say why. So those of you who were in, and maybe Robin, Kathy, and I can't remember, Karen, if you made the back to the nest.
I did.
All right. So I will go through this briefly then, but for the folks who are watching the recording, the reason we are doing program health and why we're trying to improve it and reform it is that we want to continue to do a efficient and a better job of measuring the rigor, relevance, and alignment with our community and transfer partners of all the programs that are offered at Reynolds as much as we can. We want to give tangible evidence so that we can make strategic decisions on resource allocation, whether we grow or sustain or consider changes that might impact programs. So this isn't a exercise and just for the fun of it. There are going to be hard decisions, ideally, that come out of this process. We are trying out this new way to tell stories, to lean into both the quantitative and the qualitative aspects of gathering and reflecting and measuring information. And then, as I joked, what I don't lead with, but does matter, we have to do this. We can't, this isn't an optional exercise for us because our regional accreditors will ask us, how do we measure program quality and what do we do about it? And I say that's an afterthought, not what's driving, not what is leading this. Again, as a reminder, this is repeat for the people in the room and Zooming with us, trying to connect it to the strategic priorities of this institution so that we are in alignment as much as I can with the few strategies in the first focus area. And I think you all know me as well. Please interrupt, please interject. Feel free to ask questions throughout. This is not meant to be a lecture, and we will get into the working components of this shortly. But for now, I'm giving you a quick overview, and then we're going to actually do some hands-on demo work. Again, trying to situate program health and its connection to program learning and general education. Those are the big three that I consider how we try to measure and improve student learning at Reynolds, and at most higher ed institutions, there's some semblance of this model. Here's the new. Again, for those of you who attended the Back to the Nest, this is not new, but we heard the feedback. We acknowledged the complexity and the misalignment in the first time we did this last year. So the big changes are that we've sort of reversed the order, even though, as those of you know, when you go into Watermark, you can complete these in any sequence, in any order that you want. But in this way, we're trying to start with something that maybe is a little more simple of a story with enrollment. That's what today is about. We will meet later in the fall about retention, which is a more complicated session. That one may take the full 90 minutes. I doubt we'll stay for that length of time today. Completion, again, a relatively straightforward set of questions or question. And then the new element is this opportunity to tell a story about how faculty are being supported, being engaged, being hired, being onboarded. We either glossed over that too much last year or didn't provide enough opportunity to tell that story. We heard that from some program heads, so we're trying to improve that. This fifth section is the trickiest one to me, because this is where I can't ask you questions if I can't provide you with the way to respond to those questions. And we as an institution are still trying to collect useful information and provide it to you on what happens to our students in the workforce, what happens to our students when they transfer. I think I have an answer to that, but I'm working on getting that for everybody. So that fifth one will still be a challenge. Some program heads know this information very well. They're very aware of what happens to students in the workplace, but other program heads say, I don't know how to answer that question because you haven't given me the right information. And then the last part that we moved from the beginning is to then summarize, then give us the overview of the whole program. We heard from people saying it would be easier if you let me conclude with that rather than open with that. And that made sense. So that was our reorganization. This is a drafty draft of a rubric that we will use when we look at how did the programs tell their stories. And again, this is not meant to say that everybody should be in Grow, nor should everybody be in Sustain. I think this is presented as a way to say a healthy portfolio may have a bell curve that's skewed. This is statistics reminding. I think if it's bell curve to the left, it's right skewed. I still don't quite get that, but
That's where the tail is.
the tail is to the right. So we should not have, well, I don't know how many programs will show up and monitor and examine, maybe some, and maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe none, maybe a lot. I doubt it, but we're gonna tell the story and see where the chips fall. This is not a complete, obviously, because we've got those TBDs all over. We're not sure how to score the stories that faculty tell. I think we are pretty solid on the first three, and even 5, I think, could use some tweaking. But I'm open to feedback. So those who are hearing this, and if you have some brilliant ideas, Karen, I would be welcome to considering those. Okay, that's the end of the overview. Let me pause for 5 seconds. That's a long time for me to be quiet, but I'll try to see if there are any questions or comments on that start.
So I think I took off the summer and I did not go into the dashboard, and now my password's expired.
Aha.
So that could
Yes.
be an issue.
It will be, and I learned this morning, Kathy, that I was trying to show the deans what I wanted to discuss with you all today, and I learned that they don't all have the same access to these dashboards. So access is key. Having your password up to date matters, and we can resolve all of those after the fact. For now, I'm going to show an idea of how these first questions could be addressed. So let me change my screen and share with you the places that I would send you. So let's start on the intranet homepage. And again, this will be good, I hope, for those who couldn't attend today and will need the refreshing. How do I find all this stuff again, Tim? So let's start with opening Watermark. Before we go to the dashboards, I'm going to have Karen Neal, who's sitting next to me, so she gets picked on. Do you remember, Karen, on this intranet page, how we find our link to Watermark? Karen is appropriately scrolling all the way to the
All the
bottom.
way to the quick access thing.
And at the very center, as Karen went right to it, there should be a link that says Watermark, that if you click on it, I'm looking at Karen's screen, she's asked to verify her Reynolds credentials. You don't have to learn a new password, but upon doing so, you should land on the Watermark home page for you, but I'm kind of curious to see what Karen sees, so I'm looking at her screen as well. My screen is not representative of what you all will see because I have access to left menu items that you may not. So
I have a
your-
new screen. It says, it's like two tiles. One says course evaluations and surveys, and the other one says planning and self-study.
Very nice, Kathy. Thank you. I was curious if Karen's was going to show up that way too. It does. So course evaluations and surveys is the new class climate. Remember me mentioning that briefly
nice.
so you will all, once surveys start going, have access to a live dashboard of how your courses are reporting their survey results. And I'm going to save training on that for later, but you are welcome to click on there. And in fact, I'm going to test it with Karen. I don't think much is going to show up, but I'm curious. Terry's looking too. Yeah, so nothing is there. But projects are going to be the sessions. So 5-week ones, if Karen was teaching a 5-week one course, her results would start showing up there in about a week. For the 15-weekers and everybody else, we're not going to see anything in there until December. But I will, again, warn people in advance that something will be coming. So right now you don't see much. But thank you, Kathy, for reminding us that that is there. So for those of you who do have access to programs and are designated in the system as program heads, Terry and Tangi and I can update your access if it is not correct. Karen is clicking on hers for the first time, so she still gets the terms and conditions. But clicking through that should land you on a home page that says, welcome to your name. And then you should see a program that you are responsible for somewhere on that home page. I am pretending for today's exercise that I am responsible for the Gen Ed program if we had one at the college. We don't have a degree granting Gen Ed program. We have Gen Studies. But you should see something that says Academic Program Assessment Plan for 24-25. And you should also see 24-25 Annual Program Health Review. Now, for those of you who were doing this last year, you should also see 23-24 Program Health Review, and maybe Terry 23-24 Academic Program Assessment. I can't remember if we retired those or not. What today's training is going to be is on the 24-25 Annual Program Health Review. So clicking on that takes you to the landing page related to program review. Navigation in Watermark tends to be left-hand navigation-based menus. So I tend to tell people to first look at the left-hand side of almost every screen you land on. Here you can see the organization of the modules that I showed you the table of before. And in the center part of the screen, you see those same modules laid out. This is the entire elephant, if we can use that metaphor, seeing the whole elephant at one time. You can see there are about 14 or 15 prompts. And again, the feedback we heard last year was waiting until April to remind everybody that this was an exercise due in the spring was too long. So today we are starting with the enrollment trends. So you can access that either on the left-hand side by expanding all or clicking on module 1 or clicking on the enrollment trends in the middle. Either place will refresh this screen on the right, remind you that we are talking about enrollment trends with our program health exercise. We have the ability in this first screen to see what the prompt or what the question is that I'm asking you all to do. But in lieu of that, we're going to write narrative by clicking on the purple write narrative button on the right-hand side. I'll back up and show that again. Purple is their watermark color of choice. So usually things are highlighted or colored in purple to indicate that it's something that you can click on. So for the enrollment trends today, we're going to start writing a sample narrative. Now, what am I being asked to write about, right? This is very much, does the question align with what you all care about? So I will pause, and one of the deans this morning mentioned that we would still be interested in feedback even on these questions while you're writing them. So instead of shrugging your shoulders and saying, I have no idea about any of this, Tim. In fact, I would rather tell you this story about enrollment. I am open to hearing that. I think, again, it would help to improve the process. I want to guide or provide support to those who are trying to tell the stories by asking the right questions. So I'm open to criticism of this, I will say.
What if so one of the things that I noticed, and just because it's where I am, it's a brand new program.
Correct.
So
So you're
there's,
not going to have 3 years of enrollment data, are you? In this case, on your story, I would say, brand new program. We may have fall enrollment data,
Mhm.
and that may tell you a little piece of the story. You can't speak to enrollment trends if it's a brand new program. But you might, Karen, say, I was anticipating about 30 students this fall, and we have 50. To
Mm.
me, that indicates there's a lot of interest and demand in this program. Therefore, I'm going to make the case for more sections, more whatever the case is. Or I was anticipating 20 and 3 signed up. So we maybe have an issue with how we're promoting this program or how people are talking about this program, and therefore I need to blah, blah. So I think you are provided with any type of story you want to tell, with this prompt trying to guide you with a certain way to answer it. But I sort of look at these prompts like suggestions. And I would say there probably isn't one right answer for any of these, a lot of different ways. But let's pretend, Karen, that your program has existed for a while. And I am going to switch my screen to the academic program student performance dashboard. Did it change, Kathy, for you and Robin? Are you seeing my SAS screen now? Jennifer's giving me the thumbs up.
Yes, I am. I see SAS.
Thanks, Robin. This dashboard is one, again, there are differences in the dashboards. So I want to make sure you are seeing this correct one. And let me show you how to get there. Remember this intranet homepage. I hope my screen jumped back to the homepage. There are a couple of different ways to get to this dashboard. One of the ways is that there is a tile dedicated to college reports and dashboards on the intranet page. It's the second row tile. My mouse is hovering over it. I'm watching Karen too. I'm going to click on college reports and dashboards. Takes me to the Office of Institutional Research with a whole host of options on the left-hand side. The dashboard I want to dive into, and this again may be an access issue, like we were hearing from Kathy, that either the login has lapsed or even, Tim, I don't see that as an option. So this is why I want to walk through the program heads with this. 1, 2, 3, fourth one down is Academic Program Performance Dashboard. I want to get to that one. And what this says here is that if you are working off campus or remotely, you need to make sure you're connected to VPN. Now, that's not an issue for anybody who's on campus. Even wirelessly on campus, you should be connected to the JSR net. Below the screenshot of what one of the pages looks like is a click here to access the live dashboard and view the most recent results. Now, Karen is getting a message that she does not have access. So she's getting a pop-up that says, cannot access required dashboard. When she clicked on click here. Terry's telling me she got the same thing. Now, when I click on it, notice a new tab has opened and I get the little spinning wheel. It tells me that my report is opening, but since I have access, it went to where I want you to go. So if program heads are not finding that, did you try too, Jennifer? Were you clicking along with us? I'm curious to hear if Robin or, well, Kathy already told me her
And this is the,
password
is
has
it the
expired.
public one that should?
This is
be, or
not a
no?
public one,
Okay.
because we are diving deeper into
'Cause I
data.
will say in the past, I've noticed you can always get a new, you can reset the password through Mel Boynton if you email her, but also sometimes certain browsers.
Where you-
Like I wanna say you shouldn't, I think,
Edge is not friendly. You're
yeah,
in-
Edge, I don't
right?
think it likes Edge. I think it likes Chrome. I don't even know if it likes Firefox. So
tend to
I
do my
think
work
people say Google
well.
Chrome. So maybe try it in Chrome and then see.
All right, Robin, are you clicking along with us? Have you been able to get into this dashboard okay?
I haven't tried. Hang on a second and I will do that right now.
Karen Lay is getting a user ID issue too. So this is again why I want to identify this early so that with IR, we can identify access issues. Karen, Neil, do me a favor, go back to where you had the enrollment dashboard open. Did you leave that on one of your tabs?
No, you want this one open?
Yeah, click on that one and then click here to view the enrollment dashboard. So I'm watching Karen Neal for a second. She's got JS Prod. Come over to these little dots right here and then click open for me. Let me show you what I'm doing with Karen and then click on all reports. JSR. I'm going to show you all this in a second. I'm just seeing what Karen's got available. Yeah, and there's only one campus wide. All right. So if in this database, and again, this will be good for training and we can edit out the right parts. There are 3 dots to the upper right-hand side of the menu. And by clicking on those 3 dots, it allows me to open a different dashboard. And program heads should have a folder called JSR. Karen Neal, sitting next to me, only had campus-wide as a folder within JSR. I've got a bunch because Mel asks me to test out things, and so I'm in more, and Jennifer, you have access to some of these as we're trying out. The folder I would like program heads to have access to is this one called Student Performance. And I'm looking over Karen's shoulder and she does not have access to that. So I'm going to assume that other program heads may have similar access issues. Yes, actually, Karen, I will submit a ticket. And Robin's getting an error too. So this will be something for me to follow up on. But within Student Performance, there is a dashboard called Academic Program Student Performance. And that's where I need program heads to be in order to really tell a compelling story for later on. But let me show you what Karen Neal could do with the campus-wide enrollment dashboard guest access. So this is the one that opens that should be available for anybody who needs to see it. It lands you on the big student enrollment goals, but notice the tabs at the top. You're able to click on course enrollment trends and student enrollment demographics, both of which have slightly different screens when you land on them. This one is more, the course enrollment trends tab is more organized, as you can see, around modalities and sessions, and then big counts of summer and falls. Notice that the most recent 2 terms have been selected, but in student academics, one of the filters, you do have the ability to see either by school or by program. So if I'm pretending that I am in charge of Gen Ed, let's also pretend we have a Gen Ed program, which we don't. And I'm curious, Karen, if yours is even in there. It is. So I'm looking at Karen Neal going to, well, let's just show you what Karen Neal's going to the biotech lab major, excuse me. It's a complicated word for me. If I select that, we are seeing right now, as of right now, well, 5, so it says 5 students on the left, but I think that's counting all of them that we have. But it looks like 4 students. Does that sound about right?
Mhm.
Karen's nodding that data seems accurate. So you can, in the enrollment dashboard guest access, begin to investigate some information related to enrollment. So this is the part of the storytelling that Karen Neal could do for a brand new program. 4 students is about what I expected this fall. Maybe, maybe not. I was expecting 100. I got 4. Am I happy with that? Am I satisfied? Karen would tell the story that she wants to tell based on looking at this data. But Karen, I would even come over to the student demographics tab, the next one to the right from course enrollment trends. And let's go back to the same academics filter and give it a second to populate. And then let's come down to, again, biotech lab and select that and then close. Again, we don't have a lot of students to talk about here, but we are getting same set. Did you follow me on that one?
Where are
Come
you?
over one
You're
tab,
over,
over the
okay, okay, okay.
demographics.
And then do my student.
But obviously, the demographics is meant to tell a story more about the makeup of those students. And so Karen's seeing that she's got, a few who have not reported, some white, 1 Hispanic Latino student. Again, we're seeing the 5 total because we've got multiple semesters selected. And we could say, all I really want to know about is fall 24. So I'm going to remove one of those filters at the top and just see that we've got enrolled, not audited, fall 24 biotech lab. And Karen's got a very limited story to tell, but she's got a story to tell, I would say. Interesting again, seeing where these students are from, if that matters. Some people may say, I don't really care. But you're seeing age, gender, ethnicity, and somewhat where they live on one screen. So you can tell the enrollment part of program health without getting access into the student performance dashboard. But I need to make sure all program heads have access to that for our future stories that we're going to tell, that we're going to cover later this fall.
Can I say something real quick, Tim? Do you know, because in the past, I had emailed Mel Boynton if I needed an SAS password reset, but I think Karen mentioned in the chat
There.
that she thought she prefers, is she suggesting tickets now for that?
Mel prefers tickets
Okay.
because they can track the
All right.
issues that come up.
So I was just gonna tell people who, whether you're watching the recording or that in case, just in case, go to forms and requests in the intranet
Yep. Good
and
point.
then click on,
Help desk. What did you
under
do?
forms and requests, you request reports or data.
Ah, good.
And then that
Sure.
takes you to the page where under services and tickets, you would click institutional research. So I put that in the chat, but just for folks who
Absolutely. And I
might be
think
watching this later,
That's
put in
right.
a ticket for institutional research and
Good
ask
point.
for an SAS password reset.
exactly. And I think they prefer that I think you could do it either under dashboards at the top. That's more about new dashboards or this user access issue.
Yeah.
Either way, the ticket will get to them. This is just offerings of how they've categorized requests for help. Thanks. Good clarification, Jennifer. I appreciate that.
One other point I would like to just address is like the error message I get says that the username or password is invalid, which can sometimes be confusing because it's like, well, then which one is it?
Which is it? Right.
But again, if you are working with your username, that's JSR
Zero. Yeah.
then usually your first initial X last initial. That is the appropriate user ID.
Username. That's right. Nice clarification. Absolutely true.
So typically the reset is the password thing, which you need to then do the ticket for.
So I have heard that the single sign-on is coming and maybe this fall. So that this whole user access thing, I hope, will disappear by Christmas. That's my Christmas
That would be
wish.
great, because I know I've found it harder to use the dashboards than I would
It's an
like
immediate
because of
gateway.
that,
It's an
yeah.
immediate gateway.
And it's
Like,
quick, the expiring is, turnaround is
the
pretty
constant
quick too.
resetting is awful.
Yeah.
So like Watermark, my hope is that it'll just be, hey, you've got your Reynolds credentials, log right in. But thank you, Karen. I agree. Mel prefers tickets, and we need to clarify that your username is not your Reynolds. It's a specific to the dashboards. So I understand that a big part of your progress in this exercise is getting you access. And that's why I'm glad we are spending some time in covering how to do that.
But it was really good how you showed, what you can find on there, because there is a lot of great stuff. It seems like the dashboard will make it a lot easier to come up with these stories.
For the enrollment one, yes. You can't do much else that I'm hoping to encourage our discussions on this year beyond enrollment. So I want everybody who is responsible for telling a story to have this academic program student performance access.
What was the rules for my username again?
It should be JSR, the 0, and then KXN for you. First initial X, last initial.
Okay.
That's the
Thank you.
pattern for most,
Okay.
but depending on how many KNs there are at Reynolds, yours may be different.
I think that's what it was. I just. And so on.
So similar data, similar enrollment data exists in the academic program student performance, but I don't want to go into much detail today because we still need to get access. But for the sake of recording, I wanted to briefly demo the same sort of thing that we just covered in the enrollment guest access dashboard. It would work similarly, right? Mel's designs were basically similar. that you still would choose, oh, let's see, let's stay with biotech, right? Because we were looking at that, and let's see, this will be a good data test, right? To see how in line the dashboards are. So if we filter our semester and just talk about fall 24, we're seeing 4 FTEs. That sort of, was that what we were counting before? I don't know why we're getting 7 here compared to 4 here. So that's something that's worth
Seven
investigating.
in the summer.
No, because I filtered just for fall.
Okay.
So the 4, that's what I looked at first, but this is interesting to me. So this is a question of why we might be seeing differences between, I mean, I'm sure there's an answer. I don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm gonna ask Mel about this when she watches this recording.
Go back to the previous screen when you hovered over one of those. I saw a 7 pop up. See right there?
Seats filled.
So maybe it's not their primary program.
Ah, nice guess, Kathy. Yes. Though I'm seeing 7 here and 3 here. So there's the 10 sections. 7 and 3. But that's not seats filled, is it? So FTEs are only indicating 2 here, 1.9. And FTEs here are indicating 4. So that seems to be an opportunity for investigation. Because I want you to rely on this data dashboard rather than having to jump between dashboards. I was only showing the enrollment one as I can't get into my other one as an opportunity. But I will investigate that and report back to the group.
So
The other-
Tim,
Yeah,
I have a question, sort of a similar situation where we just started the AS in education.
yes,
My students who were in social science, teacher prep, general studies, elementary ed, and liberal arts teacher prep have until next fall to graduate. Can I focus only on education, but then sort of an aside note to say there's these other students too?
this is where I want to empower you to tell the story you'd rather tell. And I think to some extent, I want it to be the most meaningful and accurate story you can tell. So if it makes more sense, Kathy, for you to present the story of what's happening in your program a certain way, I'm open to that. So I'm not really answering your question. I've had conversations with program heads who oversee multiple CSCs. And I have said, if you want to tell one blanket story and wrap in all of how the students are working their ways through the CSCs, please do so. But if you'd rather tell one program story for your AAS or your AS and one for this CSC and the other for that CSC, I'm open to that too.
So are we going to, like in future years, go back and look at this stuff and compare?
I think it would be hard to do that because, again, we're leaning more into the qualitative storytelling in this part. Yes, we're basing it on data, but I think, Kathy, you would say, for this year, I'm telling this story.
Okay.
And for this year, this is what makes the most sense to me to explain.
But to tell the compelling story, you got to move 2024 fall back over there after 2024 summer. It's in the middle.
Yeah, I see the order is.
Why is the order like
is
that?
Off here. Another good feedback. Yeah, it should be spring. Well, and even, yeah, the whole thing is off, right? Because it should be
No,
fall 23.
Summer.
Oh, I get it. Should be
it should be spring.
summer 24,
fall.
fall. Yeah, so the summer 24 is off. Interesting.
Another thing I just wanted to add that I think we forgot to mention earlier, I believe to access the dashboards, you also have to be on campus at your work computer or using a VPN.
Yeah, we said, yeah.
Okay, you said
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't.
That
yeah.
was in a little footnote on the intranet page. But
Okay,
thank you,
yeah.
Jennifer. That's
So
a big-
just
that's a good
remember
point.
that, because you can't just use it at home and, yeah, unless you're using a VPN.
That's a good observation, Karen's, Neil, so I want
Explains why
to.
I can't get into mine then. Okay.
Oh, Robin, are you not on campus right now?
No, I'm working from home today.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, that could be it.
That
If
could
you're
be it.
usually able to access it, that's probably it.
all right, so that's semester order.
And I think if you think you're gonna wanna access it at home on a regular basis, I think you could try to, if you don't know how, I think you could work with OIE to try to set up a VPN to do it that way.
Mhm.
But it's a little more complicated.
Absolutely. What I was hoping to accomplish today, and one of my purposes, was to be able to show where to go get some data, then to bring back to Watermark, to begin either leaving bullets for yourself here to say something about FTEs. And I think, again, even pointing out observations that you're making in the data. Said this on one database, this on the other database, need to resolve that. I guess I would rather that be brought to my attention as soon as possible. But Karen is showing me too that she can drop in images of the dashboards and the results here, so you don't have to remember if you're telling a story here and want to save the image and then drop the image into Watermark. I think that downloaded. Let me see if I can insert an image. Oh, if I could drop it there, that would be cool.
I did screen,
Yeah.
the snipping tool.
So I did that with a drop. But again, to me, the value is not so much in the image itself, but in your interpretation of it.
Mhm.
To put this in here and then have Karen say, 4 is about what I was aiming at for this first year. I know these students, blah, 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 blah. Or I was really impressed that we got 4 our first year, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, the value in your interpretation of the data is what I want to emphasize rather than the data itself. If that makes sense.
Tim, I would argue that this would be a great way for us to make sure that we're starting at the same page. I know in the process last year, we ran into a couple places where program heads were talking about some data, but then deans were like, but I see this data in their responses and feedback. And so I guess, again, to just normalize that we're starting from, like, this is the point I'm starting from as I tell my story. So I actually like this idea of dumping in screenshots of the dashboard just to verify where I started telling the story.
That's a great point, Karen. And then it's, yeah, you saying, I filtered the data this way because this is the most meaningful way I want to tell the story. So you're right. When the reviewers are looking at it, they're saying, well, let me filter it. Because to me, I don't want to get into the argument over, well, you said 7 and I said 6, blah, 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 blah. I'm running down a rabbit hole that way. I would love for Karen to say, I'm saying 4 because I filtered this way, and this is why this matters to me. And this is the bigger picture to me because my program needs 20 to be sustainable. And this is how I'm going to get there. You're exactly right, Karen. That does establish this is my baseline assumption, and I'm going to tell you a story from here. And part of that is training on the scorers too, right? To say, let's not get too wrapped up in she says potato and I say potato, but let's just have a discussion about what we're eating for dinner.
Yes, exactly.
So
Doesn't
I
it
agree.
update often?
Yes, it updates and you can filter it in myriad ways. You're right. So I think dating it, I pulled this data on September 11th and I'm writing my story based on that. So when they go in and they filter it and it's on in December, like, well, I'm not getting the same numbers. Okay, to me, I want to say, well, let's not argue about the numbers. Let's argue about the story that's being told. And that's both sides, right? That's helping program heads say, right from an evidence-based perspective, this is what I'm looking at and this is what I'm talking about. And when scorers are looking at it, don't spend time saying, well, I really don't like the color of that graph. So why isn't it in green? Being superficial. But the idea to me is we have to help each other by saying, yes, overall, what's the narrative what's the case you're making? Program is solid, it needs to grow. I'm struggling with it. We need to consider changes to it. To me, that's the bigger picture in this exercise. I I think I have accomplished what I wanted to cover today. I gave you, I hope, a reminder of how to find Watermark. We know we have some access issues with the dashboard, so that's some take home for me. Karen pointed out some design in the dashboard, which I think I can address with IR. What else of the audience members would be worth our time to discuss or go over today? This was one of the shorter ones. So I'm glad we were able to accomplish it in an hour. Retention, we might need to split into a few sessions because that one has more content.
So one piece of feedback I would share for folks, especially those that are new, like come in, do a little bit, save it, and come back later, right? I think a key point is that the beauty of Watermark is that you don't have to do everything in one sitting and you can come back, or even as you move forward into other sections and then you're like, oh wait, did I look at that again? You know, did I look at my gender distribution in the classes or something? You can come back and review, but it's, I think capturing, you know, small amounts, snippets at a time is good to make it more manageable.
That's a great point, Karen, and thank you for the reminder. The upper right-hand corner, I want your eyes to be trained to go up to the right-hand corners as well, because if you just X out of this without a save or without a save and exit, you will lose the progress you made. So you're right that it does absolutely let you come back at any point, but if you forget to save, it will not necessarily. Sometimes I've seen, right, Terry, we will go back and it's, oh, it did capture it, but often it's not automatic. So
how do I get back in it?
So left-hand side and then right narrative. Yeah, as long as you verified you.
And it'll go back in.
Yeah, so Karen asked this question. So I'll save and exit. And then it takes me back to, in this case, it just took me back to my drafting and it gives me a reminder of the last time I was in there working on it. But how do I get back into where I was or come back up to the right there? Again, it tries to prompt you with big purple buttons. Remember, it does have a feature that you can attach things. So if you are writing in a Word document, or if you have a cool Excel spreadsheet and it's not transferring over well, you can manage evidence by bringing over copies of things. This is similar to our program assessment, right? Where people have said, oh, I've got this great rubric, but I built it in this Word document. We'll just drag it over as evidence. You can add it by dragging and dropping or adding links or whatever the case is to help you, to Karen Lay's point, leave breadcrumbs for yourself. I was often saying to people, just even jot some ideas down. Like, don't get too caught up in writing complete sentences when you're first going through this. Just say something about internet access for students. And then that's your, all right, I remember I wanted to write something about how my students are struggling with internet access and therefore they can't complete their assignments on time, blah, blah, blah. But that's the hope with this software, that it lets you engage and return and leave it for time beings. So thank you, Karen. Good clarification.
Question, please, or suggestion, I guess is better. But I would love a session with you, and I think others would as well. So just a group session on helping us find the why. Because, for example, I have Black males taking online classes have a lower completion rate. And I want to understand the why so I can help improve it. But I'm not, I mean, I can do random Google searches. I can try random stuff. And it's not a bad idea. But I'm open to suggestions for other ways to be able to figure out the why so that we can better address. So if you or if anyone has ideas that we can share on finding data or determining the why.
That's great, Robin, and which was also why I really wanted to partner with CEDL this year. Because the way I see CEDL maybe is different than Bree and Jennifer, But I see CETL as one of the ways that faculty can be brought together to say that. And Karen Lay may have some ideas, right? Jennifer Hitchcock may have some ideas, and she may say, well, this has been my experience with African-American men in my classes or my online sections, and I've noticed that blah, 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 blah. Or if I engage them in a certain way that's different than the white suburban women, I've seen these results, blah, blah, blah. So Robin, you make a great point. And my hope was that I don't necessarily have that knowledge. And I will admit, I don't teach. So I don't have experiences with students, but Karen Neal has a lot of experience with students. And she might say, I ran into that same issue 5 years ago, and here's what I tried, and it didn't work. Or I had wonderful success with it. And
Awesome.
so to me, Robin, the best way I can do that is facilitate these sort of group interactions.
And
Great,
there's also-
thank you.
There's also another level of that, Robin, specifically to the African-American male. It's actually a national trend across all of academia. There's a really good paper published, I think last fall, where they looked at across all sorts of disciplines, the decrease in successful completion for African-American males.
Ooh, I would love to read that. Do we have a Canvas site for program reviews
Well,
or a
no.
place where we could store knowledge like this? A place to find the videos, a place to find the papers that people pull in?
Great question, Robin. I mean, I would want to work with Jennifer on the faculty hub. I know there is a Canvas course that I think I even have access to, right? Let me see if I can pull it up. That is a faculty hub that I think is designed for best practice sharing, right,
Yes.
Jennifer? You know better than I do.
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
yes.
That would be, oh, you need to click on the 3 dots and get rid of the color overlays.
Oh, where?
Go back to the main screen, click on dashboard. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but off to the right a little bit, right there, click on that, and then click on color overlay. Thank you.
Hey.
Much better. Now you can
Well,
actually see things.
Yay. And I even tend to like lists better than tiles. Oh, no, I don't like that. All right. Nice. Robin taught me something new today.
I just,
Thank you.
people put time into their thumbnails. So when they're all covered up and ugly, it's just not fun.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, my thought would be, I know that CETL controls this hub, but I would love to have something here for best practice sharing, even these short videos. So good suggestion. I think that's a follow-up for
So, but
CETL.
we're just talking about general teaching best teaching best practices.
Well, I think Robin's question was related to findings from program health or program review. That if
Exactly.
There is a module, if you go to modules, everything is in the modules. If you scroll down, there is a program head resources module. So if this is all something that would be relevant to program heads, it would make sense to fit something like that in that module.
Perfect.
You see that, there it is, program head resources.
Mhm.
That's great.
So
So-
yeah, I can reach out to folks in CETL about something like that, but we're looking. Is it specifically relating to program health, or is this just program, like best practices you can share with adjuncts? What is the specific goal of it?
My request is that I can, when I'm looking at trends in my program health, that I realize most of the time I'm going to have, because it's custom to my program, my needs, I'm going to have to go and do external searching. But just like, who was it that shared? Was it Karen about the national trend for African American males? Okay. To be able to have something like that and at my fingertips, I would look there first before I started doing external research to see if there's something, if someone else has already looked at that, why. And And then I could address it there and pull in, and then I would go beyond that. But it would save me a lot of time to be able to have that central repository for program health and research analysis and troubleshooting.
Nice.
So Robin, something else to think about. I was looking at individual courses and I had 3 men in my course and 2 of them didn't complete. And that kind of freaked me out. But then I learned from people that know more than me that that's not really statistically valid because I only had 3. That's not enough to make any kind of
Can't draw.
assumptions about.
True. But my percentage is so low and my numbers are so high that it's noticeable. And even if it was only 3, I still want to know the why.
Absolutely. Thanks, Robin. Those are good questions.
I'm thinking like a program health page in that program had resources where folks could share. And I can talk to Bree Jackson about this. Folks could maybe share some resources. We could even put a link to the video for that we're doing right now.
I'm wondering, because I do
And then
think,
some other stuff, just make a page there where folks can go and maybe just have folks reaching out to CETL and then someone in CETL can add it to that page.
I am,
Just so everyone has to reinvent the wheel
That's
for
right.
some of the stuff.
that's right.
I'm not as familiar since I'm not a program head with the program health stuff. What are the specific types of general research that would apply to multiple programs? Because some of the stuff is going to be specific to one program but it could be used by a future program head. So
Correct.
maybe some more information about some of that stuff folks are looking for, or, and this gets back to TILT, the examples part, examples of,
Mm,
you know, when folks are doing the program health, here's some examples of narratives, here's some examples of what this might look like.
Correct.
And
And
I don't know if you
again,
have any past examples that you can share, because this is a new system we're doing for this time. So
Right.
maybe planning to gather some examples of good program,
Sure.
completed program health
A
reports
well-told
to
story.
show. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
and again, I think to leverage CETL's connection and support to faculty, I would rather have faculty working together while I am happy to sit and facilitate or help with discussions. I am not the expert. And I would rather the experts talk to each other. So Robin, thank you. You've given us some things to consider. And Jennifer, maybe you and I can follow up on how to make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. What else can we do to make people's time worthwhile? We're at an hour. It's about what I thought. And go back to my presentation and see if we hit the purposes. You know, did you all see my change? Let me put these back up. So we talked a little bit about the structure. Data entry, of course, is guarded by access, watermark, dashboard, storytelling, value and purposes of college. Terry, anything I missed? Terry's usually good at keeping me on track.
No, I think it's everything for right now.
Aaron, how about you? Aaron, and
I'm checking. You good?
looking for your notes.
Mm-hmm.
This was
Um,
helpful. Thank you.
Oh, hey, Professor Terry. Good to see you. Thanks, Robin. Karen Lee, anything else from you?
All good here.
Yeah, Karen said, she said what I was saying. Yeah, I think this would be a good idea about having that module in the faculty hub and starting to collect stuff for folks and making it easier going forward, doing this process too.
That makes sense.
But I think people appreciate some of your discussion of the purpose and the why at the beginning of this presentation. I know I heard from a few folks that about like tilting this would help.
Good. Well, I'll keep working on that for sure.
Yeah, so, and examples would be one of those parts for the criteria, but what you do, you know, you kind of have a rubric that you're setting up. That's part of the criteria, part of tilting
To be
too,
Transparent.
but then the next step, and we kind of if this is a new system, to gather those examples to help future folks.
Right. Kathy, anything else on your wish list for today?
The only thing I do wonder is, I want to say 2 years ago was my program review and we were using Watermark, and I jumped in and did everything and then found out that I had to redo it all because the spring data wasn't there yet in the dashboard. So keep that in mind, that as we're doing this along the, the whole school year, that data is going to change.
Right, and I know I did hear from some program heads, and even Dr. Dwyer was supportive of this, to say, can you just deliver the data to us? Just give us the information that, to Karen Leo's earlier point, sort of sets the ground for everybody at the same level. And I've been hesitant to do that only because, yes, it's a little more work that we could manage, but the purpose of the dashboard is to be interactive. And yes, while it's fluid, it does change. I think we sort of addressed one way to do it is to say, I'm putting into my story the data that I looked at and when I looked at it. And I know that adds a little more burden to program heads. It's this philosophical debate between, do we produce data and deliver it, or do we create it and give you access to it? And I know we've been struggling with the access, so that sort of, and makes that argument a little bit harder.
I would
But-
much rather have access to the raw data that you've provided, because I'm going to be looking at things different than you might. I want to be able to drill down. I want to be able to combine in ways that aren't necessarily how you would combine. I mean, ideally, I want to be able to look and compare terms, compare teachers, compare enrollments, see what's working, what's not working. What can I do to improve? What can we do as far as, is this class, oh, it did much better this term. Oh, that's because it was offered on a Thursday instead of a Monday. Or, there's things that I'm going to think of for the program that I don't expect others to. So by having that raw data, and the more raw data, the better. Sorry, folks. The more raw data, the better, because I'm able to drill down in different weird and wonderful ways.
That is the level of curiosity, Robin, that we're hoping to encourage, granted the time to do this. I know we also heard that, I know you all wear a lot of hats, and I know you all have a lot of responsibilities. So I try to balance that level of curiosity, Robin, that you just explained, with reasonableness in your time on this task. And I think, Robin, you're sort of saying that the goal that I would have, to where we would get eventually, and producing data for you would either come in a PDF or a spreadsheet, and then you'd be manipulating the data anyway, right? You'd be in there playing around with it to suit your needs, but you're right, to a lesser extent. So it's an ongoing debate, and I don't think for now we've landed on the answer that I'd rather just get you access, get you into the dashboards, support the hell out of you, so you never have a, Tim, I am struggling, so let's solve that. But that's where we are today.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. It's good to see you. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, Kathy.